Salam and peace. Welcome to today's mini session. Um, I'm Chantal, founder of Honored Womb, author of Peaceful Periods, and today's mini lesson is about sacred self care, right? Self care to really honor your sacred womb. Um, One thing I wanted to add to from yesterday's mini lesson. So, yesterday we went over menstrual health care basics and we talked about what is a healthy period. And I really appreciate the comments. Some of you had said you never thought about a healthy period, you were never taught, or you had some very different notions of what healthy meant. So thank you for your honest feedback and participating in the discussion. It really enriches and enhances the entire week for all of us to have conversation and dialogue and to share our experiences. One more thing I wanted to add as a characteristic of a healthy period is that the flow is not heavy. You shouldn't fear soiling your clothes or flood bleeding that's nonstop or needing to add pads to tampons or wear overnight pads during the day. That would be considered heavy bleeding. So a balanced period would go from a light to medium flow and then medium to light, where you would be changing period products, whatever kind of product you're using, on average once every 4 hours. But when you need to change a period product like every single hour, or again, use an overnight pad throughout the day for daytime use, or combine tampons with pads, not that tampons are advised, but if that's part of your practice, then that would be considered heavy bleeding, right? If there's this constant fear of flooding, bleeding through things. So that's another feature of a healthy period. And another thing I want to build on from yesterday, actually, the conversation with Sheikh Hashaista, I wanted to add to this idea of the body as an amana or a sacred trust, right? So caring for our womb is considered an amana. We have this gift, and caring for this gift is a sacred trust. It's a a a divinely given gift where there is the expectation and responsibility to care for and treasure that gift in the most beautiful and excellent way possible. And when we care for our wombs, it's not just about our periods and fertility. Our menstrual cycles impact key body systems, right? Our menstrual cycles and our hormonal balance also impacts our digestion, our mood, our mental focus, our metabolism, our immune response, our energy levels, our fatigue, our libido, our desire. So when we care for our wombs, it's not just about periods and fertility, it's actually for our entire well being, right? Because in the female body, again, the period is the fifth vital sign. It is an indicator of overall health, okay? And so when if we know that it is a religious and spiritual and just human priority to care for yourself so that you can be your healthiest, strongest, best self in all areas of your life. This is definitely inclusive of the womb, and very significantly so. So, additionally, even our life of worship is impacted by our menstrual cycle, right? So, how long we're bleeding, the symptoms we experience, if we are experiencing different mood challenges, if we are experiencing pain, this affects our quality of life. It affects the quality of our worship. A lot of times, women have confusion about what acts of worship are permissible and impermissible at certain times, depending on their state. And so, the more clarity we can have about our period, the more clarity we can have about what a healthy menstrual cycle is, how to support it, that it's starting and stopping in a very clear way, and that we're experiencing it in a very effortless way, the more that we can bring more of our energy and our full, balanced, healthy selves to everything that we do. If we know our menstrual cycle impacts our moods, then naturally that's going to impact our relationships, right? Irritability, right? If you don't understand the changes you're going through throughout your menstrual cycle, then you're not going to know or be aware of when irritability and impatience may be more likely. And sometimes we think it's just a natural part, like it's natural to be moody, it's natural to be this or that. What's physiologically happening, right? What's physiologically happening, particularly before our period. So even though people call the luteal phase or the week plus before your period the PMS phase, this is really a misnomer. PMS is not a built-in part of your menstrual cycle. PMS is not a necessary or healthy part of a menstrual cycle. When you might be experiencing PMS, this is an indicator of some level of hormonal imbalance. But what is more accurate in terms of what's physiologically happening in that phase? So if you have ovulated, after you ovulate, some very significant shifts happen in the body, right? The egg sac that once contained a mature egg turns into a corpus luteum. It becomes a small gland that produces progesterone. These are shifts that happen, right? There are significant shifts that happen in our metabolism when this happens. And because the body is always priming for pregnancy, there are significant shifts that need to happen in the event that that released fertilized egg is, or that released egg becomes fertilized and forms, right? And can be the pre-existence for a developing embryo and fetus, right? So if we understand the reality of what's physiologically happening, we may have an understanding of why we're feeling moody and what we can do in response. So after you ovulate, there's a shift in your metabolism, right? Where your metabolism increases. This means you're burning calories faster. If you are burning calories faster, this means in the female body that you may need more calories. You very likely need more calories. You are very likely going to be more prone to low blood sugar. Your resting blood sugar is lower than before ovulation. Also, our cortisol levels are slightly higher, our resting cortisol levels. And so if you consider that before your period, it's very likely that you're burning calories faster, that you're in need of more food, that you're also in need of more rest, and energetically and mentally, our attention start to focus more on our inner world and our tasks. There's some very real shifts that happen. And one of them is that we start to be really concerned with our inner world and our projects and completion. The brain is primed to complete tasks, to take things off of our to-do list, to finish what we started, to get things organized and ready. It is almost like a mini nesting of sorts. If you've heard of that term of nesting, like getting your home and your situation in order and your affairs in order. So are so many women really experiencing PMS? Or are they not adjusting their self-care to the physiological reality of what's happening in the days and week leading up to your period? If you need more calories, are you eating more calories? Are you skipping meals? So yes, PMS is partially, is significantly a part of the estrogen to progesterone ratio being a bit off. But additionally, your moodiness could be that you need to eat more than you're eating, or you need to stop skipping meals, or you need to stop delaying your meals, or you need to eat meals that have more lasting, sustainable effect on your blood sugar levels. Again, if your resting cortisol levels are generally higher in that phase, then what else is that indicating? That's indicating that you need to be a bit more protective of what you do, of your energy, of your time. And if your brain is primed towards these completion of tasks before your menstrual period, this closure, this organization, this finishing up, this hyper focus on what needs to be done and getting it done, then you can see how invitations to do other than that could be met with this physical resistance, right? There could be this physical resistance because the brain is priming you to get stuff in order and get things ready. So again, PMS is, it would, if you can see that connection between a healthy menstrual cycle and hormonal balance and how it's going to positively impact your moods, your blood sugar, your metabolism, all of the things that I mentioned, hopefully you can see the case that I'm making that It's an amana to care for your womb. It's a part of your body. It impacts everything. It impacts your life of worship. It impacts your relationships, your parenting, your daughtering, your wifing. All of your relationships, your friending, your sistering. Your relationships are impacted by your health, and your womb health is a part of your vitality and wellness. Okay, so some people have real challenges, right? Real hormonal challenges, real period challenges, and that's not to be ignored. We talked yesterday about some of the period care practices that are really supportive and that should be a part of your regular period routine, and as much as you are capable of, but also in as much as you're desiring. Some things don't change until we decide they need to change, and some things we don't get until we ask. So, before you tell yourself, I can't rest on my period, or I can't eat better than I'm eating now, or I can't feed myself more regularly, or I can't do this or that, the invitation is to kind of reframe that and look at the necessity and the physiologic significance of you making changes that support your body. Because when you're supported, everyone around you is better supported. Okay, so some practices that are known and practiced universally to support womb health. Womb health is firstly literally wrapping the womb. So in some cultures they wear a lapa, in some they wear the bangkung, in some they wear a faja, right? Traditionally, women have kept the womb warm, especially during times of menstruation. And so thinking about what ways you can add warmth to your womb could be as simple as a waist tie, right? Tying a fabric around your waist. This is not a waist cincher. This is not a girdle. This is actually the anchoring of support from the pelvis up to the rib cage, not a squeezing of the waist, okay? So all of the wraps that I mentioned, when applied in this way to support the warmth of the womb, the positioning of the womb, you would be wrapping from the hips, right, the bony parts of the pelvis, upwards to the lower rib cage, or upwards to the belly button if it's a shorter fabric. So, literally, wrapping or tying the womb is a universal womb care practice. The second is keeping the feet warm. So we especially understand this in traditional Chinese medicine, but it's practiced universally in many cultures. There is a connection between the warmth of your womb and the warmth of your feet. So if you have tendencies towards cold feet and cold hands, this is an indicator of not just your tendency as a personality. Sometimes we say, oh, I'm anemic, so this is what it's like for me, or I just am always cold. But this is also related to a metabolic reality, right? How are you burning food? How are you burning calories? How are you deriving energy from the foods that you eat? This is also connected to your just core heat in your body. So, our basal body temperature is our resting body temperature. And we should notice that there's a range, a healthy range that our temperature should be in, even throughout the day. It's not enough to be in the realm of like feverish or non feverish. It's a very subtle changes that some people do track. But if you don't have enough core warmth, then there's not enough circulation, there's not optimal ovarian function, there's not optimal uterine cleansing. So, physically keeping the womb warm is also connected to keeping the feet warm, right? This is a practice that's very well known in Eastern cultures and in Eastern medicine. So, literally wearing socks, avoiding your feet being cold, because holistically, cold feet are connected to a cold womb. And a cold womb is connected to low blood flow, stagnation, cramping, clotting, um, uh, less favorable fertility outcomes. The next universal womb care practice is actually womb massage. So, actually having a practice of massaging yourself with or without oil, ideally with a warming oil, right? In Ayurveda, there's a daily practice of self oil massage of the entire body, and it's very supportive and grounding in many ways. It's not just emotional benefits, it has actual benefits on the nervous system, actual benefit on the health and moving lymph and eliminating toxins from the body. So especially if you're a person who feels like you struggle with weight that doesn't move, massage is a great way to move toxins out of the body, to increase circulation, and to get things moving and flowing. Womb massage in particular would be using, with or without an oil, but ideally using some kind of warming natural oil and massaging the womb. And different traditions have different practices. Some do clockwise, some do counterclockwise. Just start, and then you can get then you can get specific on the approach and the practice. But just making a practice of holding your womb, rubbing your womb with loving touch and care, being intentional about bringing circulation and warmth to your womb is a great starting point before you get into the details of what oil should I use and which way should I rub my hands and how long should I do it. Because many of us tend to be very much in our head about what we perceive as our problems. And sometimes the work that we need to do is actually to get into our bodies and let our bodies guide us towards what we need and what is most fitting in some cases, right? So with that, just starting a practice after you shower, after you take a bath, and if you're moisturizing your skin, how can you spend a little bit more time and attention to specifically massaging your lower abdomen with the intention of giving loving touch, increasing warmth and circulation to your womb specifically. And this is a universal care practice that women do every day, in some cases every week, before and after their period, during their period. Again, there's different ways of approaching it, and what you're able to do is more important than what you're not able to do. So start where you are. Also, castor oil packs if you have tendencies towards clotting, if you have fibroids, if you have a lot of adhesions, endometriosis, anywhere where there's tissue that's not where it ideally belongs, or there's like a buildup or some connection of tissue happening, some stagnation happening where tissue is not where it belongs or it's not eliminating ideally. Castor oil packs are a really helpful practice where you massage castor oil on the abdomen and then you wrap the abdomen. So again, it just combines 3 of the womb care practices. There's touch, there is wrapping, and there is oil, what I say, warmth, wrapping, and massage all together in one go. So castor oil packs are really helpful, especially if you have endometriosis, fibroids, you experience period pain, you have clots or fibroids or something like that. And even if you don't, it still helps to improve circulation. And if you're trying to conceive, then it's recommended to, I believe, not do the castor oil packs between ovulation and a potential pregnancy or the next period, like to primarily do the massage when there's no chance of conception as opposed to when there is a chance of conception. And if you're confused about what I'm talking about trying to conceive, just stay tuned. We'll get into that on Friday's talk. And then the last universal womb care practice that's known around the world on every inhabited country and continent is the practice of womb steaming. So if you've not heard of womb steaming before, some call it yoni steaming, vaginal steaming, gangang, ratus, dukhan, bajos. Like there's so many names for it. It's so universal. It's not relegated to one culture. Chayok, I think in Korea, I'm not sure. But universally, women's original medicine was womb steaming. And this is the practice of boiling water, adding medicinal herbs, and basically creating a pot of tea and steaming, right? So sitting over the steam, sitting in the presence of the steam where your pelvis, your perineum, your vulva is exposed to steam. This is not scorching hot steam. This is not scalding steam. Women are very sensible, right? There is a collective intelligence that humans have, and women have it too. So if you have a universal practice that has persisted around the world, regardless of culture, philosophy, or faith, that women have used and continue to use, trust that there is an intelligent way to do it, and that it wouldn't have existed or persisted without some kind of dogma if it wasn't of benefit. And so essentially with the practice of womb steaming, like you said, you prepare a pot of herbal tea, you allow it to cool down to a safe temperature, and you sit over the steam or squat or kneel over it. For some reason, we're very open to the idea of saunas and hammams, hydrotherapy as a whole, but there's something very triggering for people when they think of directing steam just to the pelvic region, just to the perineal or vulval region. People get very triggered by that, and they have lots of feelings and sentiments, and feel free to add your questions in the comments if you want to know more. But womb steaming is universally how women have brought warmth and improved circulation to their womb. It's traditionally how women for generations have relieved cramping and clotting and painful periods, how they've improved fertility outcomes by, again, bringing circulation, warmth, lubrication to the vaginal canal and to, warmth and circulation to the vulva. The benefit, because vaginal tissue is very porous, the herbal properties are able to absorb into the bloodstream. So people say, oh, there's no way for steam to get inside of your body. That's not necessarily the goal. The goal is to expose the body to warmth and let the warmth enter the body, expose the body to herbal steam and let the herbal steam do what it does in its essential, like every herb has a property, and it enters, it's transmitted through the steam, and it can enter the bloodstream when there's contact with porous tissues. Okay, so to recap some of the womb care practices that I mentioned today: wrapping the womb, right, to keep it physically warm, keeping the feet warm, as there's a connection between the womb and the womb temperature and the temperature of one's feet. Warming massage or womb massage, right? Massage that's intentional to the lower abdomen in the womb space. The womb space is between the belly button and the pubic bone. Castor oil packs, if you particularly struggle with adhesions, endometriosis, fibroids, cramps, clotting, tissue that needs to be really moved and dissolved. And then finally, but not least significantly, is womb steaming, right? The practice of either vaginal steaming, pelvic steaming, yoni steaming, however you describe it. Ideally, steaming can be done in many ways. In the most simplest way, it could just be exposing the vulva to warm steam. That's it. And that could be a starting point for just getting that sensation of warmth, increasing that sensation of warmth. And then if you add to that, you can add herbs that have certain properties that might be helpful for a particular period profile, right? If you have tendencies towards short menstrual cycles, there are herbs that help to lengthen that. If you have tendencies towards very long and irregular menstrual cycles, there are herbs that can help regulate that. If you have tendencies towards infections, there are herbs that can help to address that. If you have tendency towards vaginal dryness, there are herbs that are lubricating. So in that way, how to steam is tailored to what's uniquely going on for you. If you want to steam in a therapeutic way, or if it's just for the general experience, you can just steam with water. You can add sea salt to the water. You can add apple cider vinegar to the water. The one herb that is pretty benign and universally supportive of anyone, regardless of where you're at, would be mint, whether fresh or dried. All right, so those are our womb care practices for today. Self-care for your sacred womb. If you have any questions, you can leave them below this video. And this is your prompt for today. If you are in the Facebook group, this is your prompt. What womb care practice have you tried, and how has it supported you? So share your experiences. What have you tried, and what haven't you tried? Well, focus on what you have tried and how it went for you. Have a wonderful day. See you later today at 3 p.m. GMT for our interview with Ustad Ifat Rafiq. Looking forward to having you be a part of this extended conversation about how to honor the womb in practical terms. Okay? So thank you for being here, and see you soon.